Hello, good people, and welcome to Hillbilly Cat History, Spiritual Quest, where today we are in Chapter 15 of Joseph Benner. This one's titled Masters, and we're going to learn about authority, which we learned about 2 chapters ago. We're going to learn about mediums and mediators, which we learned last chapter. We're going to tie it into Masters. We're going to look for the bridges to the book of John, 4th book of the New Testament. And we're going to try to understand what Elvis saw that connected both of these books and that he took with him as he looked at other books. But we're going to start with a song, and this song is Frustration and Heartache.
He walked through the chapel, vows gone too fast. Flashbulbs were burning, but the moment didn't last. He carried us singing, sunlight in their bed, but the silence kept whispering inside her head. He's stuck in a hotel of love he can't hold. Every room is crowded, every story grows cold. Frustration's his shadow, it won't let him be. Heartbreak keeps knocking, old flames he can see. He called her my wife, kissed her in the light. She cooked his bacon, held him through the night. But her picture was simple, just two alone, while the world kept intruding. Love turned to stone. Their eyes met again, the fire still strong. He dropped to one knee, said he loved her all along. But the door closed behind them, the moment couldn't stay. She felt the heat fading as he walked away on the speedway set. She fell in too deep. He kissed her softly, a secret she keep. I'm sorry, he whispered, then he let her go. Now she treasures the memory more than you'll know. He's stuck in a hotel of love he can't hold. Every room is haunted, every story grows cold. Frustration and heartache, they echo through time. 3 women, 1 singer, lost in the rhyme. If love's a hotel, he's trapped in the hall. Doors keep on closing, he can't find home at all.
Thank you for gathering here at Hillbilly Cat History, where we remember together and listen for the echoes. And today we're hearing echoes from Joseph Benner, The Impersonal Life, Chapter 15, Hi, Mark. Thank you for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. Let's go ahead and get started in this spiritual text. It says, "You who are still holding to the idea taught in various teachings that I will provide a master or divine teacher for each aspirant towards union with me, hear my words." So we've just been through 2 chapters. One was on authority, and it told us the only true authority was the I am in our hearts. That's Jesus who lives in our hearts. It's our ability to commune with the divine. We take all of our ideas there, or we should, and we let him look them over and tell us if they're true or if they're not true, and we feel that through the resonance. And in the last chapter, he told us there's mediums and there's mediators, but the true authority still remains with the I am, but don't discount what these other people have to show. They've got their own divine projections, and you're meant to see them, and you're supposed to pull lessons from them, but don't pull their imperfections. They're having a hard time cleaning them from the film strip that they're projecting. And if you hang on to their imperfections, it will turn you from alignment. Joseph Benner is all about alignment. We're either facing toward the divine or we're turned away. Could think of it as a compass. North is aligned. All other points on the compass are misaligned to some degree or another. And now he's telling us, I've just told you about authority. I told you about these mediums and mediators. I told you how you're going to feel about masters at some point. You're going to outgrow them, and then you're going to have this fog about how they weren't any good to start with, and they were liars and blah, blah. But you need to let all that go, because that's their imperfections for them to clean up on their own film strip. You are to move on your own spiral. We're each on a different path, but we're all going to end up at the sheepfold. And in this chapter, he's saying, you're still hanging on to this master idea. You say, okay, I see that the past masters, that they were simply my equals on the spiritual journey. We were all traveling together, but still, I think there's going to be a master come along, even though you just told me there's a pattern to these masters. And so the book recognizes we like to hang on to these ideas. And Pamela says she'll be glad when we change the clocks here and it'll stop clashing times with defended Elvis. I see it as him clashing times with me, but I'm just kidding. In about a week, I think that will all come to an end. We've each only got so much time to transmit during the day. We've each only got so much free time, so we kind of cross over each other during this strange period. And the next passage says, "It is true, I have permitted you in the past to delve into all kinds of mystical and occult books and teachings, encouraging your secret desire to acquire the powers necessary to attain this union extolled in such teachings, even to the extent of quickening in you some slight consciousness of the possession of such powers." Elvis, I think, would have read this as speaking directly to him. The I am saying, Elvis, I permitted you to look into all kinds of mystical and occult books. And at the moment that Elvis reads this for the first time, he's only read a few mystical or occult books. But he's going to take full advantage of this permission, and he's going to read a whole bunch more, even though the book's saying you don't really need them. But it does say that you can acquire the powers necessary to attain this union. That's the be still. and know I am God, which is Psalm 46:10. It's also Joseph Benner's mantra, be still and know I am God. You've got to have the power to be still. Elvis struggled with that. He had the power to meditate because he practiced it as a skill in karate, but he still needed the skills of opening the conduit and hearing the message clearly, just like we all do. And this is something he struggled with throughout his entire life. That's what all the annotations in the books are about. He's listening to the I am, and he's speaking back to the I am, and he's clarifying what he hears back to be sure he's got the message correct. He's also working through the layers of messaging that are in the Bible and in this text of Joseph Benner and in the other books that he's reading. So he's acquiring the powers necessary to attain the union, even to the extent of quickening, which just means he now knows. He has a slight consciousness of the possession of such powers. And people do like to tell stories from the inner circle about Elvis moving clouds or causing other minor miracles to occur, and saying that they were linked to a power that he had. Although no one's clear whether that was showmanship or actual a profession from Elvis that this is what he thought. I kind of think that these are very difficult, deep, heavy conversations. And that when you get mixed up into one of these conversations with someone and you see that they're floundering in the conversation, you skew it towards humor so that you can all escape with grace. Otherwise, you walk away from one of these conversations, you might be in a down mood, or you might be caught up in these thoughts, and that's not, I think, what Elvis ever intended for anybody. You know, he's looking to help everyone, and so if he saw that you weren't accepting the teaching or having trouble or it was sliding over, I don't think that he shied away from just making a joke about it. Much like the I wear all of these symbols joke so that I don't miss out on heaven due to a technicality. Hi, Tarzan. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate seeing you here. It says, I have even permitted the belief that by practicing certain exercises, breathing in a certain way, and saying certain mantras. So this is the I am saying, you've got all these ritual devices I've noticed, like rosary beads. Or other ritual devices, like this book, that it's possible to read this book as a ritual, and therefore enter a meditative state in which you can commune with the divine more easily, where you can open the conduit, where you can be still. And it's hard to think that you're being still while you're actively reading a book, but I think that's totally possible. That this book is like a conversation with the I am, and that's difficult to feel in your heart when you're by yourself. We're very accustomed to solitude, and we do hear a voice sometimes, but we think it's our own, and we're used to that. Our personality talks to us, and we talk back to it. But now we're having conversations and we're receiving knowledge from the outside, and it's hard to bring that through the inside, and a book like this helps you focus and bring some of these thoughts out more clearly. But also things like, I think some people carry little polished stones, like a worry stone, I think is what they call them. And some people do the breathing techniques. That's very popular in karate. And the I am saying, these are all rituals in the realm of illusion to help you break through the illusion, but they're not truly necessary to the knowledge that's coming or to your reception of the knowledge. This is kind of like a little crutch or training wheels that you're using to be able, or a shortcut, to be able to enter this meditative state, to help you realign. And he's permitted it. So it's not saying it's wrong, it's saying it's permitted. I have even permitted the belief that by practicing certain exercises, breathing in a certain way and saying certain mantras, that you might attract to you a master from the unseen. So it's not just for you to enter this meditative state. You think that doing these things, well, they'll bring other shards to you who are doing the same kind of things and who are exemplifying those practices or passing them around, communicating them from one shard to another. And this master who would become your teacher and help you to prepare for certain initiations that would admit you into an advanced degree in some secret order in the inner planes of existence, where much of my divine wisdom will be opened up to you. So this is kind of an interesting section. It's saying you have a belief that someone's going to come along and they're going to have all these secrets, and they're going to tell you about these secrets, and they're going to bring you into their secret order, like the Masons. A secret order in the inner planes of existence, like the Masons, who claim that they have knowledge that nobody else does. And it's the secrets to the universe. That's the divine wisdom. Much of my divine wisdom will be opened up to you. So it turns out that salvation, your inner spiritual struggle, all of it is really only going to be solved if you're in a club. Like the Masons or the Shriners or the Buffalo Lodge. I think that's what Ralph Cramden belonged to in the Honeymooners. Or the Great Elks, maybe that's what he was in. But if you're not in one of these orders, maybe a bowling league, then you're not going to be able to make it to heaven. That's kind of what's being implied in this paragraph. And it's pointing out that it's ridiculous. That you're not going to have a lot of divine wisdom opened up to you from a secret order, because salvation isn't a secret. It's not a special club. It's not held for only certain people. It doesn't matter about where you stand in society or who else you associate with. And Tarzan says, do they even believe in Jesus, those clubs? Well, you're required to be a Mason. It's part of the, you have to take oaths, and it's part of the oaths. And it says here, I have not only permitted these things, but if you can see it, it was I who led you to these books, inspired in you such desire, and caused such belief to find lodgment in your mind, but not for the purpose you imagine. So this says that these things are permitted because they were needed to push you along to where you need to be today, so that you can have this open and honest communication with the I Am. That you needed external validation, and the I Am provided it. And that external validation then inspired in you such desire. Well, we already know that all desire is divine desire that's been given to us by the divine. This is the mechanic that he used to give it to us in this case. We know that all inspiration comes from the divine. This is the mechanic that he used to deliver the inspiration. He allowed you to use this book, maybe this one right here that we're reading, or another one. And it inspired, which was a divine gift, such desire, which was a second divine gift, both of these delivered directly through the text of the book. And it caused such belief to find lodgment in your mind. This is your use of the imagination to create an ideal form. You created an ideal from this belief. That's the lodgment in your mind. It's like a mold that you can pour the power of love into and then manifest the belief. And then it says, but not for the purpose you imagine. Now, we didn't get to the manifestation part yet. Maybe that's the purpose. The purpose we imagined was so that we would know that this person who wrote the book is the master, and we got to go find more of their books and follow through with them. But I am saying that's not the case. It's important to understand the lesson that was in the book that was handed to you. And this section says, yes, I have brought you through all these teachings, desires, and beliefs, trying to point out to your human mind the forces I use to bring into expression my divine idea. So he's brought all the teachings, which are these different books or these different people. He's given us the desires, and that has led to the beliefs, the ideals that we've created from our imagination, from what we were inspired and desired. Because there's a purpose to these beliefs. They're like stepping stones. They're the forces the I am used to bring into expression the divine idea. That's us projecting the divine attribute. We're already projecting it, but it may not be coming through clearly at all. And that's what's happening here. The conduit of the expression of the attribute is being opened. And it's probably coming through much stronger now, but it's got a lot of errors in it, a lot of debris, a lot of misclarity from our personality still attached to it, imperfections. And that's what we've got to do, is clear all the imperfections out. But it starts with just understanding we're projecting anything at all. And Mark says it's required to believe in God, not necessarily Jesus, to join the Masons. Well, how is it possible that you could believe in God but not Jesus? I mean, the Masons, I just want to be clear about the Masons. It's a Christian sect. It's about Christianity, so they absolutely believe in Christ. They are believers in Jesus. It doesn't say that. They talk about God, but it also talks about the triangle. Like, one of their symbols is a triangle, and that comes from the Trinity. And so it's about Jesus. So they do profess belief in Jesus. And this says, I have portrayed these forces as heavenly hierarchies, and that your human intellect might the better comprehend. I pictured them as angels or divine beings, impersonal agents or executors of my will, engaged in the process of bringing into expression my idea that was in the beginning. And Tarzan saying he doesn't know anything about the Masons or any other club, just curious. Yeah, I'm not saying all the other clubs are connected to Jesus in any way. Most of them that are connected or similar to the Masons, they have similar things that you're required to believe. And it's the symbolism that most of them use that really demonstrate what you're supposed to believe. That doesn't mean that they are truly a Christian organization. What I'm saying is they profess to be a Christian organization. And if you asked most of them, I think the members would say they're Christian. It's difficult to ask. They're all secret. We don't know who are members of the Masons. But if you hang out at the Mason places in your city, there will be one. You might see them walking out. And so just to go over this passage again, I've portrayed these forces as heavenly hierarchies. And so we need order as humans. We're very into putting things into order. That's what science is all about. It's the false ordering of the universe. We like to think of science as correct. But the truth is, science is incorrect. It's built on being incorrect. The entire method behind science is about taking errors and recognizing them as errors and then forming a new opinion based on the old errors, trying to take everything into account and forming a new mental picture of how things work, a new mental model. That's what science is. It's a bunch of mental models, and they're constantly progressing. But we have this need to put things in order. And that's what the I Am is saying here, that he knows our need for this order. It's a reflection of the divine itself, to be true, to be truthful. And that he speaks directly to that need by making us feel there's a hierarchy, allowing us to feel there's a hierarchy, portraying that there's a hierarchy in spiritual matters. Because in order to start the spiritual quest, that's what we require. Everything is a small little lesson and a stepping stone. As angels or divine beings, now this part's important because it's not divine shards. It's divine beings or angels. And those do not have free will. They do what they're told. They are pieces of the divine that are not wrapped in a soul body. They're not individuals. They're agents of the divine. It's hard to imagine this or picture this in your mind because you think, well, they've got to be an individual. They're a broken off piece. Well, we are a broken off piece, but we're wrapped in a soul body that allows us to believe we're individuals, and we've been granted free will. The angels are agents, but they don't have free will. And Mark's saying that his grandfather was a 33rd degree Mason and his father was a 32nd, and he's in it as well, and it is a religion. It's an offshoot of the Knights Templar. Correct. So I'm just curious, does that mean, because you'd also said that it's not a requirement to believe in Jesus, does that mean that the Knights Templar or that the current Masons don't believe in Jesus? I'm not a Mason. I've read some of the oaths, but I'm not a Mason. So I would be interested to know if they do profess a belief. I mean, I would assume that the symbol indicates the belief in the Trinity. But that's a very interesting comment, and I'm always happy to know more because it is a secret society, right? So none of the rest of us know anything. And Don says, good comment. Hello, Don. I don't think I've ever seen you here before, so welcome to the program. I appreciate seeing you here. And then this says, but you did not understand. Well, that could apply to so much stuff. Even about what we're talking about with the Masons. We did not understand. That is the human condition all in a single sentence, but you did not understand. And this says, your human intellect, enamored of the possibility of meeting and communing with one of these beings, as claimed in some of the teachings, proceeded at once to personalize them and begin to long for their appearance in your life. So you needed a guide. You didn't trust the I am in your heart, and that's natural. That's the way it is when you start the spiritual quest. How can what's coming from inside you be true? Who would believe this? So you've got to find someone else who knows more about this that can confirm, externally validate what you feel. And Mark says it's changed a lot over the centuries in the Masons. And Dawn says that she came across this by accident. This podcast has been listening to other podcasters discussing the same subject. They're discussing the impersonal life in Elvis. That's very interesting. I'd like to listen to those too. I'll have to go look for some of those. I kind of thought we were the only ones. But it says your human intellect enamored of the possibility of meeting and communicating with one of these masters, as claimed in some of the teachings. So you read about masters, you thought, I got to find one of these people. Proceeded at once to personalize them. So you already decided who these people were before you even met them. You've already got an idea of what their personality is. And you begin to long for their appearance in your life. Now, you really should be longing for a relationship with the I am. But you're having trouble because you need this external validation. So now you're longing for the person with the external validation to come along. And you're imagining that they are interested in your human affairs. And that by living in accordance with certain rules set down in certain teachings, you could propitiate. I think that's the way you say that word. I'm not even sure what it means. Propitiate them so they would help you to gain nirvana or immortality. So you got this selfish thing going on that you need nirvana or immortality. And this indicates that you're not understanding that unity is nirvana and eternity, that immortality is something that is not within time. It is outside of time. It is in the divine now. You're not seeing any of this yet. And that's why you got to go find these people. But you think they're interested in your human affairs because you've not yet separated the secular from the spiritual. That's the way we all begin the quest. We are wrapped up in the spiritual or in the secular. Our spiritual's all wrapped up in it. And the first part of the quest is just understanding there's two different things we're looking at here, and we're conflating them. There's possibly 10 different things we're looking at here, and we've conflated them all into one large braid. It's like a rope. We got to pull out each strand individually now. And Pamela says her son just called. He's visiting in a little bit. Well, have fun with your son, Pamela. You can have him watch Hillbilly Cat History too. Got a lot of old episodes out there ready to be rewatched. Somebody told me they were going to the doctor the other day, and I said, have them watch too. Everybody loves Elvis. So we think that these people, these masters, are going to be very interested in helping us make it up this spiral, but they're actually concerned with moving up their own spiral. That's what they need to be concerned with. And we are at a portion of the spiral below them, and they are going to show us certain things that are going to help us move forward. But it's not because they're super interested in helping us. It's because They just happen to have this knowledge that we need, and it's being projected. And that's what we need to go get. And Mark says that it's not a requirement in the Masons to believe in Jesus, only believe in God. That way they can separate themselves from a religion, kind of a self-imposed conundrum. And Elizabeth says that she's going to watch all the episodes she's missed because there's been a few. I would imagine that there's over 400 episodes available now in the archives. That's on the channel. Most of them are under the live section. And Elizabeth says no one can understand immortality totally, which makes you wonder why anybody wants it. Why would you wish to have something you don't understand? And Dawn says that we've all been lied to, and it sickens her. So I think part of this book is about letting go of even believing that you've been lied to. That the other shards all have their own issues, and they're projecting wildly all kinds of things. And that when we get wrapped up in that, it's a fog to hearing the I am. But we are going to feel that. Exactly what you said. That is a very valid feeling. And Tarzan says, not political, but the president visited Graceland the other day. He also said everyone loves Elvis. Yeah, I saw him visit. He doesn't really know a lot about Elvis, you could tell. But I think that exemplifies most of the people who walk through Graceland. They don't really know about Elvis. Now, I conducted a poll about if the president was going to visit, would Elvis have preferred that the president visit a place like Graceland or a person, specifically one of his living family members? And right now, Graceland, the place, is winning the poll. So if you want to participate in that poll, it's in my posts. But 2/3 of the people who've responded so far believe that Elvis would have preferred that the president visit a place and not a member of his family. And so I think that shows that there's a misunderstanding about who Elvis was. And at first it made me really sad, and I thought maybe I should just stop broadcasting. I mean, I'm not 2/3 of the people believe Elvis, he loved places or things more than people. That's what that poll represents. And then Danny Smith said, if you're getting less than 300 views per episode, you really should just quit. That no one's interested. Well, I get less than 100 views on every one of these spiritual videos. So I'd be interested to know if you think that I should quit broadcasting the spiritual videos. According to Danny Smith, nobody's interested in them. So you let me know in the chat and the comments if you think Danny Smith's right and that I shouldn't be broadcasting because nobody's listening. And Tarzan says Jesus is God according to the Bible. And Elizabeth says most people do love him. And Elizabeth says that is a good question about why wanting something you don't know what it is. And Tarzan says he did see the post. Dawn says he watched Trump earlier signing a guitar at Graceland. How very strange. Yeah, it was a replica of the very guitar that David Stanley says he stuck the sticker on, which I found to be interesting. It's a replica of a guitar that was purchased by Vernon, and he had it modified for Elvis, including putting the sticker on. But David Stanley claims that he did it. And Elizabeth says that she disagrees with the findings of the poll and that she thinks the president should have visited a member of the family. And Tarzan says that we are very interested in what's being said on these broadcasts. And Elizabeth says Danny is a jerk. Don says Trump wanted to be Elvis in his conversation about fighting him at karate. What was that about? That was an interesting comment. And, a lot of people, it just shows that Trump thinks that Elvis was a fake at karate. And it's not because Trump doesn't like Elvis. It's just that he thinks a celebrity that's got this karate thing, especially in that time, would have been a fake. But it's not true. He really did earn those. And that's why he needed to ask the question, was it real? Did he really earn these things? That's what that was about. And Elizabeth says that she loves the videos and not to stop because Danny Smith says to. Mark says that we're listening and we're hearing too. And Tarzan says not to stop. So I don't think Danny Smith understands the way that YouTube works. But that's just me, and I'm not going to tell Danny Smith to stop broadcasting. I've supported him since he started broadcasting. And so some of the things he said recently are just, they're so disappointing. But there's a lot of animosity in the Elvis world towards each other right now. And so I do want to say once again here on the program for everybody to hear, and I'm going to say it again in this afternoon's program, that I absolutely support those Elvis girls 100%. And I know they've taken down a video now. And I know we didn't like the person that they interviewed. And I just said that person doesn't tell the truth. But I do support those Elvis girls 100%. And I'm thinking about you right now, Kristen and Benita and Margarita, because they are receiving a massive amount of internet hate. And Elizabeth says that no one should take any stock in anything Danny says. He has no authority in saying anything. He can come out and say whatever he wants, but the way that he's been antagonistic towards others has been very disappointing. In this next section, it says, now I have purposely permitted you to indulge yourself with such delusions, letting you long and pray and strive earnestly to obey all the instructions given. So the IM has purposely permitted you to indulge with such delusions because those delusions were what is needed. And delusion sounds bad, but we live in a delusion of solitude. So a delusion is our normal state of being. And it says, letting you long and pray and strive earnestly to obey all the instructions given. So you try to learn these things, and that's good because that's providing the foundation for how you're going to be still and know that I am God. It's a skill like riding a bicycle. You need the training wheels. It's required. Not everyone uses training wheels, but it's so much easier. And that's what's being provided here, training wheels. And Elizabeth says that those Elvis girls are great. And Mark says, it would have been better if President Trump had a member of Elvis's family to talk with. A lot of tour guides misspoke a few facts. Yeah, and those were the number one tour guides. That was Angie Marchese. That was Joel. So if you've never seen Joel before, the guy that looked like he was part of the New York Mafia, he looked like he walked out of The Sopranos, that was Joel. Now the older guy was Jack Soden. He looked like he was swallowed up in that sports coat that they put on him. And I haven't seen Jack for a long time, so he did not appear to be looking that well. He seemed to be having some trouble standing. He's a elderly gentleman. He was the heart behind EPE, but I think Joel's running most things now. I can't say that for sure. I'm not in EPE, but just based on that clip, it did not look like Jack was fully in control of all business decisions at this point. And Dawn says that her mom loves Elvis, so she knows just how passionate they are. Yeah, they get very, very passionate about stuff. This is a very unique niche in celebrity markets because there are no other celebrities or people on the planet, anyone who has a following like Elvis. And the way that people interact and connect to Elvis is far different than everyone else. Most people are fans because they like somebody's song or they like a movie they were in or they see themselves reflected in that person. Elvis seems to have been found by most of these truly passionate fans at some point when they needed a message of some kind. And that message came through Elvis, and it got them through some very difficult portion of their life. Something that was like being in a foxhole with another soldier, and that other soldier happened to be Elvis in this case, and that creates this relationship, this lifelong relationship with Elvis, but it's very dependent on the way that they first viewed Elvis in the foxhole. Because that's the moment when they needed him, and they don't want him to change from that moment because that's how he was when he saved them. And then there's just some people that just really like the music in the movies. And so the book goes on and it says that it's been allowing you to do this stuff. It's even been leading you on, sometimes by giving you glimpses in self-induced visions and dreams of ideal beings, which I permitted you to believe were such masters. So it's saying it's let you believe in these masters. It's even let you form ideals of these masters, ideal beings. You've had the visions and the dreams. That's your imagination. This is part of the creative process. You have created an ideal master in your mind. And you pour in all of that love from the Holy Spirit, and it manifests a master. You actually find one. But it's an illusion that they are truly a master, but the lessons that they're teaching, the projections, are real. And Elizabeth says that Elvis helped us so much and shows, and it does show what real beauty really is. And this book goes on and it says, I may even have caused to open in you certain faculties, which make it possible for you to sense the presence of personalities that have passed into the spirit side of life, and who have been attracted by your desires to seek to fulfill the part of master and guide to you. This is a very interesting passage. It's talking about what most people would think of as ghosts. That you're sensing presence of personalities that have passed into the spirit side of life. And so this is, what went to the spirit side of life is the divine shard. The personality didn't go. It got burnt up in the transition. But we remember the personalities of the shards. That's how we identify the shards. We don't remember the shards as shards. We remember the beauty of the shard, but we remember it filtered through the personality. And we see this personality speaking to us, still having conversations with us. I'm sure anybody that's lost someone they truly loved, someone who had given them advice in the past, that they still speak with them from time to time. We see this all the time in the movies when people go to a gravestone and they look down at it and they orally say things. That's for the movie so that we can hear their inner dialogue. But you don't have to go to a tombstone in order to have the inner dialogue. It's happening with a lot of people all the time. This is what's referred to as always being in someone's heart. That even though someone's gone, they'll always be in our hearts. That's where the I am is. And so we're seeing the unity of the shard remembered through the personality, and we're using that as a method to hear the message from the I am. That part is illusory. It's an illusion, but it's a very useful illusion for us to concentrate on a certain part of the message that we're being given. And that's how they're fulfilling the part of master and guide to us. They're basically taking us back into to our hearts, to the I am, because we're speaking to them in our heart. And that's where the I am is. That means you're speaking to the I am. And Elizabeth says that sometimes her comments don't turn out the way she wanted and they don't make sense. That's everybody's comments, Elizabeth, so don't worry about that. Just put your thoughts into the chat as you get them. We'll sort them out. But we're actually going to leave this here. We're going to return to this section that starts talking about such beings are not masters and divine beings are not masters, and because we're all divine shards, so we can't all be masters. But we're going to get into that on the next episode because I got a couple of other things I want to go over before we get out of here. Here's a new illustration I've created with AI. And this is what it feels like to be a divine shard. You're full of love. That's this big heart. But we swim in the soup of misalignment, and that's represented by a rough sea here. But the Holy Spirit is there. You can see the birds above. They almost always represent the Holy Spirit. They represent that in truth we are flying free, but we feel like we're stuck in this sea of non-tranquility, this wild ocean. But notice that the heart is opaque. The love's coming to it. There's a couple or three areas of the water that have a slight red tint. And so there's light either coming through or reflecting off of the heart. That's love. But it's not very strong. That's a very opaque personality there. And that's probably maybe a good thing. It's shut down so that you don't drown. Look at all that water you're going to sink into. And the personality has closed everything off and it's become a self-contained vessel. And then if we compare that, and Dawn says this heart is struggling to survive. That's right. And Elizabeth says she loves this one. Let's compare it to this one. The conduit is opening. Notice that the heart is now above the water. There's a center to the heart, a clear center. That's your divine shard. It's clearly transmitting and receiving love. You can see right through it. And that heart around it is our soul body, because it's perfect. Look how perfect it is. And everything around that soul body, that's us. That's our spiritual life. That's our inner conflict. That's our personality. That's the way some others see our personality, that we're volatile. There's a storm in the air above us, but we're still floating. There's a lot more red on the water because there's a lot more love and light being transmitted that's coming through. That's our projection. So let's look at this projection on the first one. Got almost no projection at all. So when people see our projection, when we're like this, they're pulling in all this storm around us, and they're saying, look, this person's all stormed up too. This is the right way. That's the impurities that they're pulling out of our projection. And then here, we still got a lot of impurities, but we got a lot more purity. A lot more projection. We've calmed the seas somewhat. There's at least a little bit of a patch there that's somewhat clear. Now the storm's still trying to swallow the heart. You can see all this water rushing up. It's even obscuring some of it. That's the fog that we live in, that obscures us from the divine. Now, in this afternoon's broadcast, Danny Smith, he's told us to do our research. We shouldn't just be talking about things we don't know about. And I got to agree with Danny there. So I've done some research. We're going to talk about Billy and Marty. Now Lamar is up here too, but we're really talking about Billy, who's over on the left. We're going to talk about Marty, who's in the middle. You see all these magazines behind them? That's a magazine that Billy and Marty printed and sold in 1979, 1980, and 1981. You can see they got an interview with Elvis's best man. That's Marty. Now, he was co-best man, but that's not what they put on the front of this. It's not the way they described it on this magazine cover. And it says, finally, a magazine for the true fans. What do you think they printed in this magazine? Well, we're going to look at that more today in my episode at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So be sure not to miss it. We're going to do like Danny says, and we're going to do our research. And this is all of my equations at a glance about Joseph Benner. Let's remember this first one on the top. Be still and know I am God. And that divine shards equal perfection. Our divine shard is perfect. It's part of the divine. Our personality is imperfection. It's supposed to be. That's required for the mission. And when we add our personality to our divine shard, we get the imperfect projection of a divine attribute. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And Don says that's 3 minutes from here in the UK. It's going to be 7 p.m. UK time tonight, Don. So if you're in the UK, 7 p.m. tonight. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here with me today. I greatly appreciate all your comments and your chats. YouTube wants you to hit the like button. They want you to subscribe. I need you to subscribe too, so that this message can get out to more people. Like Dawn said, didn't even know this message was being broadcast until she stumbled on it here. So please be sure that you are subscribed, that you're telling everyone you know that's an Elvis fan to come and subscribe to. And I'm going to leave us with a song. And this song's going to be Truth That Sounds Like Lies. You all keep on taking care of business.
No whisper in the family halls, no doctor's word, no shadow calls. We searched the papers after he was gone. No cancer written, no sickness drawn. Yet silence breaks in fractured skies. Truth that sounds like lies. Charlie spoke with kindness deep, repeating words he thought to keep, protecting Elvis, guarding flame, or echoing voices without a name. A loyal friend, a gentle guide, truth that sounds like lies. Three voices sing in broken time, each one honest, each one blind. The story bends, the rumor flies, truth that sounds like lies. Fracture born of love's disguise, truth that sounds like lies.
At Graceland's door the doctor came. Vernon ill, his body lame, a secret spoken, hushed and great. Bone cancer spread beyond the grave. I carried words with tearful eyes, truth that sounds like lies.
Cells that look like death's disguise, stained and studied, no disease inside. Not cancers marked, but nature in her body, a breaking, nothing to mend. Science clears, but rumor cries, truth that sounds like lies. Each heart believed what it was told, each hand held fragments, shards of gold. But when the pieces fail to bind, the world calls false what's true inside. Three voices sing in broken time, each one honest, each one blind. The story bends, the rumor flies, truth that sounds like lies. Fracture born of love's disguise, truth that sounds like lies. In the silence of the king's last song, truth and rumor both belong. A sacred ache beneath the skies, truth that sounds like lies.